I'm used to like one-on-one stuff in counseling. And now I'm all excited, so watch out. I don't know how this is going to go. All right. So what we wanted to do today is sort of talk about what we're doing in our school. But first, before doing that, like, where did we begin? Why did we begin? And it began with something happening inside of our school building. But then we sort of said, how are we going to roll this out? So we had a lot of challenges getting it into our school community. So why did we begin? About 5 or 6 years ago, we were the 6th grade kids who started cutting. And it became very contagious. In this group of 6th grade kids, we got bigger and bigger. This was going on in our building, obviously causing a lot of concern with teachers and with me and other people in the building. At the same time, in my room, where I work with primarily kids who are on plans with behavioral or emotional disabilities, I was seeing a huge spike of anxiety and depression. And it wasn't going away. It was getting bigger and bigger every year. And I was getting, actually, to be honest, rather frustrated because I wanted to sort of say, can we stop being reactive and be proactive? Joe and I started working together and noticing that, well, mindfulness is a great way to go, getting rid of some of this depression and anxiety, which might be getting to some of the self-harm behavior and other kinds of behaviors we're seeing in our school. Next slide. But what was also happening is our day is full. You know, we work in a middle school. We have an administration that says, you know, time on learning, time on learning, time on learning. It is the stuff you're talking about, you know, everything's working, why change things up? We had a couple of things that helped us out. One of them is data. So we had data in the form of the Metro West Boston Adolescent Health Survey, and I'll give you a description of that. So that was happening on one hand. On the other hand, we also were having this increased focus in Massachusetts with our frameworks. And I know this is going on around the nation about social and emotional learning. And we heard Barnaby talk about that a little bit earlier today. So the Metro West survey is a survey that's given every other year. It covers 25 middle school districts. It monitors trends in health and risk behaviors. In our middle school, 90.8% of the students took the survey. Lots of results came out of it about sort of the risk-taking behaviors that we're seeing in our kids and what they're facing. But just one thing I wanted to highlight is this one slide. And they were talking about sources of stress. And the two things that that's really hit home with why would you want to do mindfulness in middle school? Throughout the 3 years in middle school, their stress levels just kept going up and up and up. And then the anxiety and the depression, and then they show up in my room. The number one school source of stress was school. And we were talking about school, they do, you know, drill down on that a little bit, but it's like, you know, it was homework, it was grades, it was parental expectations, it was peer relationships, the whole business of being a middle schooler was just causing them to be really stressed. So we had that going on, so that gave me a little bit of power, right, to go to the principal and say, hey, this is a problem in our community, it's a problem with our kids, we want our kids to be okay. I was like, yeah, we really want that. And I said, and by the way, principal, we got this other thing going on right here. You know, we have to think about our social emotional learning in all of our classrooms, and how do we do that? And this is kind of scary for teachers. They're doing so much, you know, we tell them how to worry about social and emotional learning too. And how can we take a piece of that away? And how does mindfulness fit into this? So this is the castle wheel. You might have seen it before. I think it's pretty popular out there. And you see the 5 different areas of social emotional learning that they highlight. The 3 of them, go to the next slide, promoting emotional well-being, improving self-awareness, increasing cognitive performance. Those are things that we really talk about a lot with mindfulness. So these things fit in really nicely. The other thing that mindfulness does is it provides a platform for the other things. And for other parts of emotional, social emotional learning, it could be problem solving, it could be relationship building, it goes on and on. And if you can focus inward, you can pile on that outward teaching. And that's what we've been noticing with our kids. And so we're putting those two things together. We really had a nice way of being able to say, problem in our school, data that's showing it, and then an initiative that we really want to sort of dig our teeth into. So that's sort of where we came from. That's how we started our program about 5 years ago. I'm going to hand it to Joan because she'll talk about our first, sort of the tier 1, part of our tier 1 stuff we did.
So I think 2 things. One, I heard what Barnaby was saying about not crafting this as part of social emotional learning, looking at it more holistic, and agree. I agree with him and I hear him. I also heard the other part towards the end of his talk today about looking for opportunities. So what we're sharing with you today is where we found opportunities to bring mindfulness into our school. So the social emotional learning in Massachusetts is big right now. And so this was our opportunity, and that's the train we jumped on. So, just kind of take it for what it is. That might not be the case where you are, but this is where we were coming from and where we saw possibilities. So, these are our kiddos, some of our kiddos. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the elective and how we got there and what we're calling our Tier 1 support. This is part of it for our gen ed population. So we use a co-teaching method. So Gretchen and I teach the mindfulness elective together. It's a semester-long class, so we run it twice a year. And we have a maximum of 12 students per class. We chose that number. And
are you a teacher or
yes.
counselor?
Sorry, I'm a teacher. Yes.
You're a teacher. Okay.
School adjustment counselor.
I'm sorry.
No, thank you.
Okay.
I am a background special education teacher, and I now do a executive functioning, emotional, ADD, you name it, support program, 6 through grade 6, 7, and 8. That's a whole other presentation. So we had some flexibility. We were able to offer the elective. We, as I was saying, 12 students max, and the reason is because they're 8th graders. It's middle school. This is something new and different. Too many kids, it would be too vulnerable, and we were afraid they wouldn't share. Too little, and it gets awkward. So around 12 felt like a nice number. Between 9 and 12 kids a semester is what we run. And that we found has been a successful model for us anyway. The class meets once a week in our elective time slot for about 45 to 50 minutes. It's like maybe 47 minutes to be specific, I'm not entirely sure. And we use Learning to Breathe curriculum as the basis of our elective. So that's our foundation. We add a lot to it and make it our own, as Barnaby was talking about, but that's the curriculum that we found most successful for our middle schoolers. So how we got there a little bit more. So as Gretchen had said, in about 2014, administration was getting pressure to move to more time on learning. And what that meant was getting rid of anything that smacked of a study hall. So we had to take study halls out of any of our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade schedule. And so the periods expanded. So instead of 8 periods, we went to 7 periods. And just the way they changed the schedule, I am not the schedule person. You could not pay me enough to do schedules. But the way it worked out, there was room in the 8th grade for electives. And Gretchen and I saw that as our opportunity, and we jumped on it and volunteered to do the mindfulness elective. There's also, one of our other teachers offers gardening, yoga and walking. There's a current events, there's history through film, financial literacy, there's a bunch of them. So it's not like we're the one and only choice. But
that only meet once a week.
well, some of them meet once a week, some of them meet twice a week. So here is this fantastic schedule. This is our mosaic schedule. So where there's colors, those are subject classes. The gray is like recess, lunch. We still have homeroom in our school. Don't know how long that's going to last. And then the white periods, the white and purple periods for 8th grade are where they see their specials. So their required PE happens there, their tech ed classes happen there. Some kids actually have a language, so that takes up like all of purple, say. So the whites can vary. There might be other things. They may have 2 electives. They may meet with somebody for reading support. I mean, there's a variety of things that can be happening during that time. The happy face this year is where our elective lives, so we're first period on Friday. Sometimes the way it works out, we're after lunch on Monday. It varies by year depending on how they do the schedule. But in general, that's the setup for it. So a snapshot of what the class looks like for our elective is, so the kids come in and we'll do like a minute transition meditation or arrival meditation as we did when you guys came in today. And then the curriculum, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Patricia Broderick's Learning to Breathe, but they have an acronym, and your subjects or your units go by the different topics. So we start with the body, we move to R for reflection, which is really about your thoughts, getting the kids to do that metacognitive thinking about your thinking. We talk about emotions and attention, awareness. Tenderness equates to, we do a lot of loving kindness, compassion, gratitude in that unit. Healthy habits across the board, physical, mental healthy habits, emotional. And then the E in empowerment is the idea that what we're doing with practice cuts across all areas to help build their resilience and their confidence. So that's the curriculum. But as I said, we'll talk a little bit about how we add to it and tweak it and kind of make it what the kids need. So we'll do a lesson, which is a discussion about a topic, and then an activity that goes with it. And then after the activity, we'll kind of circle back and have a short debrief about how did it go, how did this feel for you, what did you think about it, is it something that you would use, do you get it? So it makes an opportunity for good conversation with the students. And then at the end of class, we usually leave about 10 minutes and we do some type of guided meditation. That might be a body scan. It might be a visualization like mountain or garden or your favorite place. It might introduce them to loving kindness meditations and do a metta with them. This is all a really gradual process. We start really simple and basic at the beginning and kind of layer as we go when we can see that the trust is built and that they're feeling more comfortable with themselves and with each other. So we thought it would be good if you got a sense from some of our kiddos about what their feelings are on the class. So these are a few of our current 8th graders, and I'm going to let them talk to you because they're way more interesting than I am. They're awesome, actually.
So I'm so pleased today we have 3 of our graduates from our Mindfulness elective from last semester, and we're just going to talk a little bit about what they learned during the semester and what things that they've learned that help them in their daily practice. The first question I have for you guys is, what is one mindful practice that helps you during your day? And maybe tell us also when you use it.
I listen to music, like calming music, and I do it before bed because it helps me sleep. It helps me relax about the day and kind of just go over what happened.
I use the 5-finger breathing practice where you have like your hand and then every time you go up you take a breath in and when you go down you breathe out. And it's an easy practice to use because it's quiet and you can keep it to yourself, and I usually do it before tests because it calms me down.
And I use like the balloon breathing exercise. I like one of this one, and you breathe in when you like open it and then breathe out when you close it. And I just like do it when I'm on a test or when I'm stressed or something to calm me down.
And what does being mindful mean to you?
Being mindful to me is being aware of my emotions and like when I'm stressed, how I can calm myself down and make it so I'm not like gonna have an anxiety attack.
And being mindful means like being calm and learning to remain calm in like stressful situations and stuff.
For me, it's, like Megan said, being aware of your surroundings and like having control over your life and what is going on in it and being aware of it.
Did
what did you guys learn from your mindfulness elective that you did not know before?
I learned like meditation practices I didn't know before, and like breathing exercises that I use a lot now to like be calm and stuff.
What I learned is that being mindful isn't meditating. It's usually used for like stress relievers, and it helps you stay focused, and it can just like overall in your daily life make you more calm and aware.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of, I noticed how busy my life really is and how like I need to take a second to like calm down, and I realized that there's a lot going on and it helps me like escape from it.
And last, is there anything you'd like other students or teachers to know about practicing mindfulness?
I can go, consistency is key. If you do it once, you might be a little bit confused and weirded out by it, but if you do it like multiple times and you get like your body's used to it and you know how to do it better, and it works better.
I think that anyone can practice mindfulness, and there's no age limit. It's not strictly for younger kids. It can be for anyone, and it can really impact everyone.
Yeah, and I said like practice is like really helpful. Like it kind of doesn't make sense in the beginning, and it might like be more difficult. But like once you do it for a while, it's easier to like get calm and stuff.
Okay, terrific. I think that's it. Thanks so much, guys.
They're just awesome. I love those guys. So I think and hey, we didn't prompt them. We asked them the questions and they gave us the response. And I think that was, for us, the really cool thing was, and you're going to have to just bear with me for a minute, because, there you go. As teachers, we get up there, we talk with the kids, you do your thing, and then you don't know, like, are they getting it, are they not getting it? They're middle schoolers, the face doesn't change, I can't tell. So to hear them, it's nice to say, oh yeah, you're getting this.
Can you share, how did the 12 students who were a part of this, did they sign up for it? Did you select them?
Good question. So most of them sign up for it. Part of them sign up for it because they like us. I mean, we're present. I mean, it's by 8th grade. It's not a huge school. We have like 400 kids. So they know us. They know about the mindfulness class. So some of them sign up because they just want to take it. They're curious. Some guidance will talk to kids who have particularly high anxiety and suggest that they take it. And again, this is why we're like small, low key, step by step, because some of the kids are in there because somebody suggested it, so they're not quite sure. Do they want to be there? Do they not want to be there? Some parents, word gets out about what we're doing, and some parents encourage their student. So I think it varies in terms of buy-in, as far as, did I sign up because I want to be here, or did somebody recommend? It's not a punishment. It's not part of any kind of plan that they have to be there. But I think that part of it is building buy-in for the kids that maybe it got recommended and they're not quite sure what this is all about.
We're also really careful to present it as we say that this is a gift to them, and we're going to give you permission right now to do nothing.
Yeah.
We have a period today where you don't have to do anything. Yeah. Actually, that's your challenge. You're going to do nothing.
We do not require homework.
So
we call
we make it, really kind of a calm, peaceful, happy place to be.
Yeah.
And so the kids weren't so sure at first, are like, oh, this is where I get to do nothing. And that's kind of nice.
Yes, and you'll hear
how busy they are.
Yes, and you'll actually hear from a couple of our other scholars about that. But yes, so we don't require homework. We at first, when we first started the class, we tried doing a practice during the week, and it was too much. They're like, no, this is an elective. We just want to experience it. So we've sort of found ways around that. And I'll talk a little bit about that with data collection. I think one of the big things that we do in making it our own is tailoring it to the group. So we get a read on the kids who's coming in, who's taking it, why are they taking it? It's one of the questions we ask in the pre-course survey, which I'll show you an example of that in a minute. We have our little Google folders that we break into, the different sections of the Learning to Breathe curriculum, but within that, we pull from different places. We'll pull from different sources on the internet, from different books, from different courses that we've been to. So we really try to be flexible within a topic of what's going to work for the particular group that we have. And we found that to be more successful. In the beginning, we were just like, okay, should we follow the book? But the book and what the activities were didn't always match up with where the kids are. And I mean, this is middle school. They can be one day they're one place, 1 minute they're one place, and then they're somewhere different. So we really had to build in more flexibility in the curriculum. So some of the things that we kind of juggle back and forth, body scan, no body scan, walking meditation, sitting meditation, mindful yoga, no mindful yoga. This is, a lot of the things we try to gauge so they feel like they own it. They're making decisions with us about the kinds of things that they want to do. And we do ask them to stretch a little and go beyond their comfort zone. But if it's something they clearly are not jazzed about, then, we want their buy-in. So we want them to stretch when they're feeling comfortable. So in terms of data collection, we do a pre and post-course opinion survey of the kids to get a feel of who they are, why did they come in, why did they take it, and then at the end it's kind of a what worked for you type of questions. We do informal discussions at the beginning of class. This is sort of how we sneak in the homework thing. So the week before we had a topic in an activity, and we might challenge them to try doing a minute meditation during a class before the class, your math class starts, or try doing a mindful walking in between classes. Depending on what their feedback is to us, we give them a something and just say, try it. It's an experiment. See how it goes, and then we'll check in the next week and see how things went for them. And so that's sort of our way of building the consistency and the practice without saying, here's your homework, or here's what we want you to do. And the other thing that I like about the curriculum is at the end of the curriculum, they have this thing called a mindful quilt, which basically we just take Post-it paper and we draw out like patchworks for a quilt, and the kids come together and they fill in the patches of the things that were their favorites over the semester. What activities did they like? What sayings? What stuck with them? Then we laminate it, and we have a bulletin board. You'll see in another slide outside of the health department and the guidance that we put all our mindfulness stuff on once a semester, and they display their work out there. And it's just another way for them to reach out and share what they've learned, and it's a way for us to kind of get more information out into the school.
Has there been any push for offering it to 7th graders, or is it strictly 8th grade?
Right now, there has been. Right now, it's an 8th grade elective because it's sort of 8th graders get these special things. But when we talk towards the end, we'll tell you some other things that we're trying to do to be responsive to some of the other grades. So this, I just wanted to pull this up here because it was talking about, in the beginning, Gretchen was talking about the Metro West Health Survey and how for our school, stress was a high one. And this was just an example of the responses for the pre-course survey. One of the responses we kept getting was anxiety, overthinking at school, and homework were across the board. Full disclosure, we are in a suburban community. It's fairly well off. I mean, our socioeconomic diversity is not so great. I mean, it's middle and higher end. But these are overbooked kids. They are stressed out. They may not have the same safety issues as inner city, but we have, they have family issues. They have, there's drug and alcohol issues. There are pressure on these kids and pressure to perform in school, out of school. So the social media is big. So that's, we meet them where they are. and these are our kids. The post-course survey, one of the questions we asked is, what was least helpful? What did you find that, you tried it, but was not so great? And this is information that we'll use then to kind of craft, okay, how did we talk after? How did this go? Yeah, I can see why they didn't like this so much. Let's try something different next semester. And spring and fall also look a little different because, hey, it's New England and our weather, we have to accommodate for that too. So,
we go outside when we can.
yeah, we do. Well, and it depends on the group. Some groups don't care about going outside at all. And
Our
others,
spring group last year loved it. We went outside as much as we could.
So why not? Said there was nothing unhelpful.
yeah, and sometimes that's the case. Sometimes they're good. Some kids will I don't like body scans. We had one class that's all they wanted to do was body scan.
So they
Yeah, some of them were falling asleep. But hey, you know what? If they needed rest, it's okay. We were entirely okay with that. It's like, if you're gonna fall asleep, then your body, what does your body tell you?
No judgment zone.
So these are some reflections from the students. I'm just gonna talk for a minute about this top one. There are a few small mindful activities that I do every day, but this one is my favorite. I like to look at something that makes me happy. For example, some days I'll laugh at my dog who is playing with a toy. This allows me to see at least one enjoyable thing every day, even if it doesn't make me feel completely better. This is a rather anxious student who wrote this. And the two things that stand out to me are, if you can be present for a somebody or a something, even if it's just for a few minutes, for us, that's a win. To be able to just release your mind of all the other drama and you can be there with your dog, that's awesome. And I think the second important part here was, even if it doesn't make me feel completely better. We say from the beginning, we are not here to make you happy. We're not doing, mindfulness is not a happy pill. And we are teaching you to be more in touch with who you are, to help you manage your stress, and to help you be more aware of what's going on in your world. So I think that's an important message that we're seeing the kids are taking in. And buy-in. We do talk meditation, but it's more it's more informational. We really focus on stress reduction because that's a big issue for our kids, and that's something that parents hear in our school community. So I think we get a lot of support by approaching this with parents as stress reduction, with teachers and administration as social emotional learning. It's, again, whatever train will take us is the one we work with. Another thing about student reflections, this one here, my two favorite things in mindfulness were hot chocolate and standing like Wonder Woman. So for mindful eating, because allergies, we use hot chocolate. We've yet, fortunately, in 5 years or so, we've yet to hit somebody that has a chocolate allergy. But we've used herbal tea when we've had to too. But it's multi-sense. It really picks up on all the senses to be able to do a mindful eating activity with hot chocolate. And the kids really like it. It's fun. We use Dunkin' Donuts. I'm not going to be shameless about it at all. And the Wonder Woman stance, how many of you are familiar with that? Any of you? Okay, so for those of you who aren't, we're all going to just get up and do it together. So this is a practice that we learned this at the Center for Mindfulness in the MBSR program. So I just want you to, for a minute, just notice however you are feeling at the moment. It's all good. And when you're ready, just feet about hip width apart, and just go ahead and put your hands on your hips. And just feel into that. Just breathe into what does that feel like. Your chest has just risen and your lungs are expanded. You are upright. You are ready for action. You all look like a bunch of teacher warriors. Woo! So this is the feeling, just taking a minute with this, that we ask the kids to do when they're getting ready for a test, when they're getting ready for a tryout or a sporting event, We actually, one of our beloved science teachers now does this dance with them before a unit test. She'll have them get up and get in their Wonder Woman stance. So when you're comfortable, you can get that down. We have some kids that will sign out to the bathroom and go do Wonder Woman in the stall before they get ready for a test if they're feeling self-conscious somewhere else. It's just the little things, like the little strategies that they can take with them and practice. Okay, so here's just a group of other friends. These three are ninth graders. Someone else, we're good. I think we're good. Go to the left of us. Okay, do you want to reply to them now?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So we asked them to come back and just give us some feedback.
Okay, so first off,
a year
thank you guys
later.
for coming. This is a group of students who are now in ninth grade who took the Mindfulness elective last year. I appreciate you taking your time to be with us today. And the first question I wanted to throw out to you guys is just a general question about what mindfulness means to you.
I would say that it means to be calm and in the zone.
I would say mindfulness means relaxing. Mindfulness to me means taking a break of what you're doing to calm down and refocus.
So can you think of any particular techniques that maybe we practiced last year that are still helpful to you in terms of how you focus, how you tune in to what's going on with you? Is there anything that comes to mind?
I just would look straight ahead, something that's not moving, and just pay attention to that.
I'd say the body scans that you did where you just lie down and focus on your breathing and move down your body and see where there could be any problems and focus on those. I'd say like pick a spot on the floor to look at and count from 10 to 0 afterwards.
Okay, great, good. What about, you guys have talked a lot about during school, what about outside of school, like any extracurricular activities that you do or sports or any time outside of the school day? Do you find that any of the mindfulness techniques are helpful to you then?
Before a race, if I'm out to run a few miles or something, I'll just sit there like on the ground or something and relax and just say to myself that I'll be able to do it.
Good, so positive self-talk that we talked about. Good.
Yeah, I'd say I do the same thing. If I'm ever stressed or nervous for a game, I'll just take a minute and just focus on my breathing and calm down. Yeah, I usually take some breaths before hockey games. When the coach stops talking before we go on the ice for a few minutes or two to get focused.
All right, great. And then the last question we had was around if there was a mindfulness elective at the high school, do you think you would take another mindfulness elective?
If I could, I would, just because like high school is much harder than you think it is. So like to be able to do that and just like take a period every day to calm down, that would do it.
And
I think it would be nice to take a period every day and just relax. Yeah, I would also take the class if they had one to, especially in the middle of the day, take a break and start over next period.
And I know that some of you have younger siblings, some of you have friends that are still in the middle school. Do you think that the mindfulness elective is something that you would recommend to them as well? And if so, why?
I would, because well, like when you're still like growing and stuff, your mind is still like learning all of these things that you don't know how to take in sometimes. So being able to do that is helpful.
I would definitely recommend it. It was the classroom environment was very enjoyable, and so were the activities they did. Was also very relaxing. Well, personally, I had it before one of the classes I didn't like as much, so it was nice to kind of just calm down before I went to that class. Yeah, I would also recommend it for other kids who could take it. I was in the second half of the year, so we did go outside a decent amount, and being like half inside, half outside was really fun and a nice time.
Right, because we did some mindful walking and observing nature during that part. You're right. Glad you brought that up.
That group couldn't sit still, so which was good. But we had the flexibility to be able to.
The other group, that was one of our body scan groups. When we said they're completely different.
Yeah,
completely different.
Yeah. Okay. So I just.
It's kind of cool.
Okay, so Gretchen's going to talk for a minute about the Tier 1 opportunities beyond our.
So this is about the
elective.
7th graders too. How are we even beginning to reach some of the 7th graders or 6th graders? And we're just starting there. And again, one of the challenges of getting us going in a school system is finding the time in the day. I think that's the number one challenge. We have a homeroom every day. We have a moment of calm reflection every morning for the entire school as part of our announcements. And so the whole school is quiet for, you're not going to believe this, 30 seconds. But for 30 seconds, everybody is quiet, has a minute to sort of bring it down to running around, getting to school. Like that morning rush that we all go through, and like the middle school kids do that too, and starting the day. 7th and 8th graders have a health class. Part of the health class curriculum is about mental health and stress reduction and anxiety. We have a health week. Once a year, there's a health week where there's mindfulness every single day for the entire week, so that introduces it to the 6th and 7th graders. The other thing that we do, and I think this one's really important, is we find catch moments. And when I say a catch moment, it's you're in a situation and you say, hey, you know what? This group could use a little bit of a guided meditation right about now, and you do it. And those kinds of opportunities really can help the kids be exposed to mindfulness maybe for the first time, but also teachers sometimes see it. A couple examples from very recent days for me. One of them was the musical, which was just a few weeks ago. We have a lot of lesbians at Chartier Middle School. We had 60 kids in our winter musical. And I was in the green room for crowd control, you can imagine, before the opening night. And the kid, you can imagine, the energy in the room and the excitement and the nerves. They had gone through some of the singing pieces and they're ahead of the piano, it's like, you get the scene. And the crowd was coming into the auditorium and they were supposed to be quiet and they were not. They couldn't. They couldn't. They just weren't there. I got all 60 of them to sit down and run them through a guided meditation where we concentrated on getting our energy level down, but also thinking about how we could envision ourselves getting on the stage and doing a knockout job at the end of the day and how that was going to feel. And that was really a wonderful moment for these kids. The second one that I had recently, which might seem more remarkable, we bring our 8th graders to Washington, D.C. I was a chaperone this year. We have about 130 8th graders that went to Washington, D.C. We fly down there, we fly back, but we don't all fly on the same flight. So I was on a flight with 50 8th graders. We had one chaperone that was 6. There was only 4 chaperones. So I had 3 other adults with me and 50 8th graders. And our flight was delayed, not a little bit, but we were at the airport for 8 hours. And in the 8 hours, were like, we left at, I think, was it like 1:30 in the morning? So it was, and it is after 4 days in Washington, D.C. The kids were exhausted. The adults were exhausted. Everybody, you make mistakes when you're in that. You kind of do some crazy things. You might say things that you regret or whatever. Right there in the terminal, got everybody together, brought them all together, did a guided meditation with them in that space, and afterwards gave them all a pep talk. We lived to tell the tale. But it was really very, very useful in that moment. Other catch moments might be before a basketball game. Get your athletes. There's other times that you can do that too. And I think that when you're sort of pressed for time, it's a really great way of doing it. Quickly, I'm going to go over some Tier 2 and Tier 3 support. Tier 1? 2 and 3. Social pragmatic classes. So in my role as a school adjustment counselor, one of the things that I do is I run social pragmatic classes for kids. Most of them are on IEPs. They have ASD, ADHD, anxiety, emotional behavioral disabilities. They're there for a reason. They're having a hard time with their social pragmatics. Within these groups, we do a lot of different things, but one thing we always do is we have 5 minutes of mindfulness activity. This actually goes back to my feeling about how social emotional learning and mindfulness go together. And that is if you provide the inside out, the outside in comes in. So if you give a platform, sort of we just talked about this a minute ago, like the whiteboard that you paint on, it's the same thing. And that's what we do there.
Yeah. So in your groups that you do the elective, you don't have IEP kids in those groups
We do.
at all?
We sometimes do. In
Sometimes,
fact,
so depending on
the Wonder Woman quote,
Yes.
the young lady who put that quote together, she's Down syndrome.
Okay.
Yeah, their inclusion.
Okay.
The elective is inclusive too.
Okay.
But this is a place where I really hone in on it in a different way. And so that's where the tier 2 support goes. This young man, I just put this up here. This was one of these moments where I had this group of students, and we do this mindfulness activity, and you can't really tell if they're actually getting anything out of it. And I went to an IEP meeting, and his mom said, "You know what? Every day before bed, this is what we have to do. Because it helps us relax and sleep better." He tells me this every day. This is what the mom was saying. So now the child was going home and saying, "Mom, guess what we have to do tonight?" He's like, "Yeah, guys, I did that. Pretty cool. You get it?" The other thing I do, maybe the majority of my days with individual counseling. These are some of our tough kids. These are our kids with that have a lot of emotional regulation issues. They can go from 0 to 60 pretty fast. I have always, I'm in school, so brief kinds of therapies work best. I do like cognitive behavioral therapy. I have married cognitive behavioral therapy with mindfulness. I think there's a role for that. If you're thinking about, working on thought distortions or things like, that piece of the world as well as emotional regulation, it all fits in quite nicely together. With these kids, we're identifying triggers to their dysregulation. We're also trying to figure out what it feels like to be dysregulated. What does my body feel like when I'm dysregulated, or when I'm becoming dysregulated? They're trying to find coping skills. What can I do in the moment when I'm starting to feel a little bit dysregulated? Now I know what it feels like in my stomach, but what do I do with this? Or in your hand, or make my hands get sweaty, or whatever it happens to be. And so mindfulness can help with this immensely. When you're thinking about what's going on in my body. They're doing little body scans with me. They're thinking about this. How does this feel? Think back to it. Where did you feel it? How did it feel? What was going on in your head? And what does it feel like inside of you? Oh, my ears felt hot. Okay, that's a piece of mindfulness. Coping strategies that we use to calm ourselves are really, a lot of times, are mindfulness-based activities. How many times did your mom tell you to just take a deep breath? That's where it starts, and it continues on from there. When kids are super dysregulated, the first thing they lose is their capacity to process language. If you're practicing mindfulness consistently when the kids are regulated, then when they, God forbid, become dysregulated, you don't have to use all that language to get them regulated again. They can't do it. And so this can save the day. The other thing that mindfulness can do for them, once they're really understanding their triggers and their internal feelings of dysregulation, is they can practice their mindfulness skills to give them that space that's so important between an event and your reaction. So for us, it's that space that you need between the guy cutting you off on the highway and you giving him, not love. So you need that space. These kids need that space all the time. And so we practice it and practice it and practice it so that they can access it a little bit more quickly. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, I know that you do this with your tier 3, but these are things you can do with kids who don't have IEPs.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's one of our biggest challenges. How do you get this across the whole school?
If you're proactive.
This is one-on-one.
Yeah.
This stuff is really, but these were the kids I was only seeing when we started this 5 years ago.
Yeah, because my kids have been in group therapy settings where his CBT has been the basis of it. Because that leads you to the other.
Right. And so that's why we said we wanted to do the elective, we want to do the mindful moments, We want to get it out in health curriculum. We wanted to integrate it. We just need to keep building and keep building. And the awareness that we're getting through things like the catch moments is helping us get it throughout the school. And it's so important. See, I guess this is where it's
Well, because this is the self-monitoring, self-management part of the CASEling.
Do the teachers know this language and or do they incorporate
Do they know that we do this?
do they incorporate it into like their classrooms as well so that, I mean, I know you would probably.
So actually,
love that,
we go to the next. Yeah, these are some of the techniques that we use. You might know some of these, the balloon breathings, which she was doing with that rose and cube. We also just do it with our hands. Biodots, kids love them. Yep. So just go up to the next one, so we can just talk about what we're doing next. All right. Because to answer your question, do the teachers know about it? Some know more than others because they've seen us in action. But where we're going with this is, do we talk about the Inner Explorer that we're doing? And then I can talk about first 2 days so we can see how we're doing.
So a couple of things, as a result of the work that Gretchen and I started, teachers are starting to come to us over the past couple of years asking for resources. What can we do? What can we do for ourselves? Professional development. What can we do in the classroom? And we, last year, we applied for a grant from the Metro West Health Foundation, the people that do the survey. We did not get it. However, we got a lot of attention. We got attention from the superintendent's office, and we've gotten attention from the Director of Student Support Services and the Director of Human Resources, and we've gotten attention from the parent committee because some of them had to sign off, review the grant before it got sent out. And so they came back to us and said, what can we do anyway? You didn't get the grant, but let's talk about what we can do moving forward. So all of the things that we've talked about up to this point have helped to build parent support and administrative support and union support. We're starting to get talk with other schools. So there's a summer enrichment program that the school is piloting this year. So it's kind of like, Parks and Rec do their thing, and our school is going to try to do an enrichment where we offer a bunch of fun different activities. And there are 2 of us that have put in to do mindfulness electives. So that would cover, between the 2 teachers, it would be for 2nd and 3rd graders, 4th and 5th graders, and then 6th, 7th, and 8th. So that would be another introductory point for the lower elementary grades, as well as an opportunity to dig deeper with the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders than we do in the mindfulness elective. We are also going to start piloting Inner Explorer because our principal wants to do something school-wide, and we do have the moment of calm reflection, but teachers are really asking for more. So next week is going to be, we're going to do a 30-day pilot of Inner Explorer. We ended up getting more teacher volunteers than we anticipated. We thought we were really going to have to sell this. And I think after Gretchen's stint in DC and the musical, word got out. We've gotten a number. In fact, we had 7th grade teachers were fighting over who was going to do the pilot for us. Like, we were feeling the love on that one. But we're going to look at where we can put that in that mosaic schedule, where we can fit in. There is an afternoon recess that right now is not really working for a lot of teachers. Right after lunch, the kids are coming back. So that's one of the possibilities of running like a 5-minute daily meditation whole school. So that's something that we're looking into. First 2 days.
Yeah. So we're talking about the teachers. Some of these teachers are like all in, and others are like,
Yeah.
So you have to like look for the volunteers, look for the easy entry points. And Inner Explorer, we think, could be an easy entry point because they literally have to press a button on the machine.
Is that a program?
Yes, and they're here.
They'll be at the expo tonight,
So-
and you'll hear more from them, but yes.
So like if you have fun, Gretchen, if you want to do that, that's great, but I have to do that. That's too much for me. So we have to be careful of that. You have to balance it. So you do have a teacher who will say Wonder Woman to everybody, and you have other teachers like. So you have to be careful. First 2 days, that was a really great place for us because our Trotter, this is different than a lot of middle schools. We have the first 2 days of school are not really school or community building days, and we have book groups and things like that. But because of the excitement about mindfulness in our district, we are going to take some time during the first 2 days to watch a documentary film.
The May I Be Happy that we're going to screen. Yep.
And after the film, we're going to have breakout sessions with students and teachers to practice mindfulness. We have to pick our teachers who are leading those things, but we have enough now that we can do that. Then we're going to also show the film and answer questions at night with parents and community members in our, rather in the library to talk about it at night. So it's a great way for us to get it out into the whole community in a little bit larger way.
And one of the other things that's a possibility, we haven't firmed it up yet, but another neighboring district is doing this. They're doing an evening book group with parents. And they've chosen a book, and so it meets monthly, and they're doing a mindfulness related book on parenting and mental health, and doing that. I'd have to look it up. But so again, looking for the opportunities. Where are there opportunities to find our champions and build the support? The district-wide initiative, I think I talked a little bit about that. Gretchen and I, when Tracy was looking for leadership for chapters for COSM, we jumped on board right away for New England because, again, we are looking for what are other people doing. I mean, we're so thrilled to come because we are learning as much from everybody else as we are sharing. So we will be having our first regional meeting in April to bring people together and find out what everybody else is doing and really start getting connected. And then the last thing was just the
Heart Map is an M-wave biofeedback system that I have in my room that I'm starting to use up with my kids. It really just anything that I can find where I can put a visual with it makes it easier for everybody, and that's just another one of those things that I'm starting to use.
So that's short term, where we're headed and how we're expanding what we started with 5 years ago and kind of where we are now. So I think, our message is looking for opportunities. Where we found opportunities, where we found interest and possible champions, we've just jumped right in with it and gone with it because that's how we've managed to build support. Any other questions, any other comments, anything? Yes?
Just real quick, it's not that important, but I know the administrators will ask when we present this. Is it passes the class, pass fail? Is it just
pass fail? So we do it pass fail. Okay. Yeah. Nobody. You'd have to work ridiculously hard to fail it. But we do it pass fail again because it's at the middle school level. It's really not about credits.
We're all about trying. You guys are going to try. And if you're not feeling comfortable or able to try today, then just let people around you try.
And the other thing I just wanted to say quickly is that I am on the executive board for our local teachers union, and so we've applied to do some presentations at the summer conference and some other things. So we're trying to get the information out as many ways as we can so that we have different levels of support. So thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you.